All right, let's come out of the ad hoc committee and quickly take you to Durban. In fact, that's where Minister of International Relations Ronald Lamola is briefing the media after meeting with the men who returned from Russia. They arrived at Durban's King Shaka International Airport last night. Let's listen in.
Irrespective of any political affiliation, that they see his role as that of a constitutional being who understood that he is the head of state of all South Africans, and that they are glad that at long last their loved ones are back, and that processes of the law to respond to ensure that whoever was responsible to recruit these young people into this ordeal must be held accountable and must face the consequences and the full might of the law. So the families are obviously concerned that these young people are no longer the same as they left, because you will understand they are from front line of a war zone. There will be challenges, particularly with their mental state. This is a huge concern for the families, and we will have to see how we can support that process of their reintegration, but also calling for communities where they come from to support their reintegration back into the communities and into the society.
Minister, I understand that there are other two that are still behind. What is the process? What is happening? What is their state at those that are at the hospital?
Yeah, they were not in a state to travel, as per the doctor's advice, that they are not stable because of the injuries. They are not ready, but maybe after some few weeks or so, they will be ready to travel back home. For us, the key thing is that they have been released from the contracts that had kept them in Russia. So even when they're in hospital, they are now free to travel. It's just that they could not travel because of the medical reasons. And the families are also very grateful for the role that President Ramaphosa played in the engagement with his counterpart, with President Putin, to enable all the role players to work together and to release the South Africans back to South Africa.
Minister, we understand that there's reports that some of the soldiers that have not returned back, one of them might have lost his life, might have died there in Russia. Can you confirm whether that is true or not?
Yeah, for the 17 that were recruited through the processes that involved the MK party, they are all back, except those that could not travel due to medical reasons. But there are other South Africans that we have since discovered that were part of the process, and there are others that we have also since discovered that some have also died. The ones we are aware of is two that we have been made aware that they've died, but they were not part of the 17. So that should be very clear. It will not confuse as part of the 17. They were not part of the 17. It's part of another recruitment drive or another scheme that took them there. So except those that died, there is also others that were part of the scheme. But as per the cooperation and the work of the two heads of states and our processes, almost most or all South Africans have now been released from the front line. What we are now dealing with is their return, and that as and when they arrive in South Africa, the law must take its course. So you will also understand human nature among some of them they do want some of them to try to evade the processes of law enforcement when they come to South Africa. But the police and all the law enforcement authorities are on standby, ready to deal with all South Africans as they return. And from our side as government, we are very clear that the law must take its course. Everyone who is involved in this scheme must be held accountable, and there must be consequences for this. We also call on all South Africans when they are recruited outside the country for whatever work or anything to verify with our missions in any country in the world, to verify just the authenticity of and the legitimacy of any working scheme that they go to. So usually when it sounds too good to be true, it is usually not the real thing. So we really want to warn South Africans that they really need to exercise great caution and care as and when they embark on this foreign services work in any other parts of the world.
My last question, Minister, do we know how severe are these injuries on the two that is left behind?
Yes, they are very severe, serious injuries. That's why they could not travel. As per the advice of the doctors, one of them, the injuries were very severe, and it's not an easy situation, but we are hopeful that they will pull through. They will be able to finally come back home.
And just in closing, I also just want to find out, can you just give us an estimate of how long the repatriation process of those two soldiers will possibly take, or has government already started with that? The two that you said have died but are not part of this group that we were aware of.
Yeah, it's a process that is being run by the Russian embassy, and we were notified through the Russian embassy of these two, and it should not be a long process at all. It should be quick, and obviously there are still other logistics that goes with it, because as you are aware, when we were notified of this, it was during the negotiations of the return of the 17, and we also did not want to create a panic situation to the families that maybe those two are part of the 17 or are part of the other South Africans that are not known. So it had to be handled with the sensitivity. Hence we are now mentioning it because we believe it's now the right time. There will be no confusion as to whether they are part of the 17 or not, which could have created a huge panic. But the process will not really take long. They will definitely, their bodies be returning and be handed over to their families. But again, we really want to emphasize and continue to convey a message to South Africans to really treat issues of going outside the country to work with serious caution and circumspection, and verify with our missions across the globe. Thank you.
All right, that is the Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamola, saying there that the South African men who were allegedly lured to fight in the Ukraine and Russia war under false pretenses and thrown in the front lines of war are not the same. He says those who recruited the men must face the full might of the law. The minister met 11 of the 17 men who arrived back home last night. He says they are relieved to be back home. 2 other men who could not return home with the 15 who are already back home in KZN were critically injured and are still in Russia. He has confirmed that there are South African men who have died at war in Russia but were not part of this group of 17 men.